it's Mickey, and as you see, I'm looking a little crazy today. It's wash day, and so I have to wash and detangle my hair. So that's why I'm looking kind of crazy. If you have kinky hair, you know what this experience is like. But before I did that, I wanted to try and get this video up for today about BookTube. I decided I was going to participate in BookTubeAthon, and so I wanted to have my TBR up before the readathon starts. BookTubeAthon is a readathon for the BookTube community. It was started by Ariel Bissett, and I'm going to link the BookTubeAthon YouTube channel down below in the description box. But I wanted to give you guys my TBR for this week because I am going to participate in it since I don't really have very much else going on this week. And I have a bunch of books that I really need to get to, and I'm combining this with my July wrap-up because they are kind of related to each other since I didn't finish a single book in the month of July. I was in a major reading slump in July, and so I started a lot of books and then put them down, started another book, put it down, and kind of just did this vicious cycle for the whole month. In fact, the only reason why I picked up any books were because they were library books and they were due back at the library, and so that was usually the impetus to pick up the book. I'm like, oh, I need to take this back to the library, so I would attempt to read it by the time it was due, and I never did. So these are all of the books that I'm going to be reading for BookTubeAthon. Well, almost all of them are books that I actually started in July, and I just want to try and complete them during the readathon. But I'm going to start this video off first by talking about two books that I DNF'd in July that I'm not going to read for BookTubeAthon. I think I'm DNFing them for a later date, kind of depending on you guys' feedback, because I'm kind of not sure about, well, I'm not sure about one of them. And so those two books are, the first one is Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. I checked that out from the library and I couldn't renew it, and so I was going to try and read it before it was due, and I read the first 15 pages of it, and it's a really big book if you've never seen it before, and the language is very dense. I could not even get my footing in the first 15 pages. I literally had to read them twice, and I just knew there was no way I was going to finish that book in the 2 weeks that I had to complete it. So I decided to DNF it for later. I just had way too much going on with rehearsals for the theater company that I'm a part of, and just like all these other things. So I was like, we're gonna have to, me and Thomas Pynchon, we're gonna have to try your rendezvous another day, because it was definitely not gonna work for that time. I do want to go back to that book, and I do plan on reading, trying it again. I just don't know when I plan on doing that, because I think that it's worth it. I know a lot of people who really like it, and so I definitely am going to try it, but it's going to have to be during a time where I have a lot of time and energy to read. So in July, during the middle of a reading slump, while I'm in the middle of rehearsals, is not a good time to read that book. So I'm DNFing that book for a later date. The next book that I am DNFing, possibly for a later date, is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. I read 50 pages of this book, and it was kind of the same deal. It was due back to the library, and I got about 50 pages in, and I quit partially because I kind of knew that I wasn't going to be able to finish it before it was due, but I also kind of quit because I wasn't really enjoying it very much. So if you don't know what House of Leaves is like this sort of meta-fictional horror novel. There is one character finds this manuscript of a sort that's basically just assorted pieces of writing that this old man was collecting about this fictional documentary called the Navison Report. And he finds it after this old man dies, and he reads the report, and he is kind of drawn into it and becomes kind of just as obsessed with he gets obsessed with the writing, just as obsessed with the writing as the old man appeared to be of the documentary and writing about the documentary. And so there's just like a story within a story within a story, and so it's set up like a textbook, and it's really interesting. It has a really interesting premise. I really like the story of the Navison Report, the documentary, which is basically a documentary about this family who moves into this house where the dimensions on the inside are much larger than the dimensions on the outside, which is physically impossible. And so they basically have this extra room that is in their house that should not exist. And that's pretty much kind of where the story goes from there. And I liked that aspect of the story. The aspect of the story I didn't like was the narrator, or I don't even remember the guy's name. He's the guy who compiles the book for us, who found all of the writings from the older man, and he is just not that interesting of a character. And he has these really long footnotes where he's kind of reacting to what's happening in the main story, kind of letting us know like what he felt when he read this passage, or you know what this passage reminds him of with his experience now that he's read this piece. And I just did not particularly like him very much. I found him kind of boring. I didn't find him a very interesting character. He just parties all the, I mean, he's just a guy that seems to like go out and party all the time with one of his random friends, and that pretty much is all he does. And then he becomes obsessed with the book, and some of his like what he talks about, some of the feelings that the books causes him to have, some of the fears, those things are kind of interesting, but like you have to go through a whole lot of crap to get to it. And I just feel like that book might not be worth all of the effort I will have to put in to complete it, because it's definitely not going to be the easiest of reads. And I'm not a person to shy away from hard reads as long as I believe the payoff is worth it, that I'm really going to get something out of it if I put a lot of effort into it. And I'm really not that sure about it. So if you've read House of Leaves and you really liked it, please let me know in the comments below, and let me know what you liked about it and what I might have to look forward to if I were to go ahead and complete it. And if you read it and didn't like it, also let me know down below, and you guys might help me make my decision about whether or not I'm going to finish that book. But if I do, it's going to be at a later date. But yeah, so those are the 2 books that I DNF'd in July. These other books are all books that I started in July that I'm planning on reading for the BookTubeAthon. And originally when I was making up my TBR, I was just going to pull together all the books that I wanted to read at the moment, and I wasn't going to really pay attention to the BookTubeAthon challenges. But then I realized that actually some of my books fit the BookTubeAthon challenges. So yeah, that kind of worked out kind of nicely. So one of the BookTubeAthon challenges is to read a book with blue on the cover. And so the book that I'm going to read for that is, I'll put it on this side, My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. I hope I'm saying that right. As you can see, there's blue in the background there, and there's this blue right here on the title. And so I want to read this. I've heard a lot of good things about it, even though I don't know what the story is, but I've heard that the writing in this book is really, really great. And I really like the cover. Look at these little, I think they're Italian, because Ferrante is an Italian author. And look at these little girls in these like these so frilly little flower girl dresses or whatever. Like I really want to read it. I heard it's about, I think it's about female friendship, which is a theme that I'm really, really into and really like to read about. So I'm looking forward to checking this one out. I actually didn't start this one yet, but it's due back to the library in about a week. So I want to try and read it. It's only about 300+ pages, and the print is not too bad. So I'm going to try and complete this sometime, because it's due back next week at the library. So I'm going to be reading this to try and get a huge chunk of it done. So this is a book with blue on the cover. And then another one is somebody says to read a book where the author's last name begins with the same letter as your last name, basically. And the book that I am going to be reading for that is Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. I've been reading this book since May. And that isn't because this book is bad. It's because I've been trying to read it from the library. And basically what happens is I will check it out from the library, and almost every time that I get a chance to check it out from the library, it is during a time period where I am super busy and I can't finish it before it's due back to the library, because it's a really popular book, so I usually can't renew it. So I'll have to return it to the library, put it on hold again, check it out again, and then almost every time that it becomes available to me, I am super busy. Every single time. And so this last time I took it back to the library, and I finally just buckled and I bought the ebook. So now I no longer have an excuse. I own the book, and I'm really going to try and get through it. I really am enjoying it. I'm like probably 65, a little over halfway through it. I really am enjoying it. It is historical fiction. It's about the rise of Anne Boleyn. I think it's a part of a series, and I don't want to talk too much about it because I'm probably going to do a review on it, but it's really, really interesting. We get to see it through the viewpoint of Thomas Cromwell, who goes from being the main man of one of the people who was considered the enemy of the king's marriage to Anne Boleyn, who ends up then becoming like one of the main champions of it. It's just like really interesting. I love the character of Thomas Cromwell. He's a survivor is what he is. He's a person who knows what to do to survive, and I really, really like that. And so I will probably come back and talk to you guys more about that later, but I really, really want to finish that book because I would really like to get to the second one also. So Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, because Mantel's last name starts with an M, and so does mine. So another challenge is to read somebody's favorite book. So this one I decided to just kind of be a little lazy with this one. I don't know whose favorite book this is, but I'm 100% sure it's somebody's favorite book, and that is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I started this in July. I really liked it, but I didn't have enough time to finish it. It is a fantasy novel. It's about this world where there are 3 different Londons: Grey London, Red London, and White London, and then there's also Black London, which like destroyed itself and is this like mythical place that some people don't even think exists anymore. And magic exists in some of the worlds and it doesn't exist in others, and just like the different worlds' relationship to magic is really different. And there are as far as I know, I think where I'm at in the book, that there are 2 people left, this kind of group of people that I can't remember the name of it, who can travel between the Londons, and that's who our main character is. He's a guy that can travel between the Londons, and it's really interesting. I'm enjoying it. It's a nice little kind of fun read, and it'd be great for a readathon. So I'm going to be reading that and trying to finish it, because I started in July and then it was a library book and I had to return it. So I'm going to try and finish it. I bought it also. I kind of just, after I bought Wolf Hall, I kind of got a taste for buying books. So I just bought a whole bunch of ebooks. I bought that, and then I bought this other book, which is going to fulfill my category of a book I really want to read, which is My Struggle by Karl Ove Knausgaard, book 1. I started it in July and I really liked it. I liked it a lot. I love the writing in it. It's about a writer. It's a memoir, a kind of autobiographical memoir type of book. It is, whenever I think about memoir or creative nonfiction, this book is kind of like, I think this is the cream of the crop of what that genre can be. It's really beautifully written and really honest, and it's about a writer he was supposed to be writing a novel, and he basically had writer's block, and so he decided to write about his own life. And it's kind of see him struggle to write about his life, but then we also see the product of the struggle, because we get these stories about his childhood and about his relationship with his father, which is what I think the first book focuses on mostly, is his relationship with his father, which is really complicated. And I just really liked it. So I'm really sad that I really wanted to finish it last month. I got about halfway through it. I read the first part, and now I'm on part 2. So I ended up buying it also on ebook, and I'm reading it for BookTubeAthon. I don't think I'm going to finish that one during BookTubeAthon, because my main focus is going to be trying to finish the Ferrante book, but it is one of the books that is a option. So there is that. I think another challenge is supposed to be to read a book without putting it down. So I got a bunch of graphic novels that I will pick from to do that part of the challenge. And so those graphic novels are, first one is Saga Volume 2. If you've been following my channel, you know I was really impressed by Volume 1. So I'm hoping that the second one is as good. The next one is Chew Volume 2, International Flavor. Yeah, I read the first one. I liked it. I'm really intrigued about where the series can go, so I went and checked out the second one from the library. And then I also got Why the Last Man by Brian K. Vaughan, Pia Guerrero, Jose Marzan Jr. I got this mainly for 2 reasons. Because Brian K. Vaughan is the writer for it, and he's a writer for Saga, so I thought that would be interesting. Oh, there's this girl whose channel I just discovered, Kia Comments. Kia Comments had talked about this on her channel, and really intrigued me and made me want to read it. So I picked this book up also. And then I think the goal is to read like 7 books for BookTubeAthon. So with those graphic novels and the 3 books that I already mentioned, I would be at 6, and you're supposed to read 7 books. And so another book that I kind of want to get to, that's a library book that is due next week also, is Bad Feminists by Roxane Gay. So I've been meaning to pick this up at some point in time. I've had it actually for a little while from the library, but I've kind of not been in the mood to read it. But now that it's finally due, I need to get to it and get it done. So this could be the 7th book. I mean, it's a series of essays, so I feel like it might be a lot easier to get through than if it was like a novel. So I plan on getting to this. I can't guarantee that I'm going to read all 7 books. Some of them are a little denser than the others, but those are all of the things that I'm going to be picking from for BookTubeAthon. If you are participating in BookTubeAthon, please let me know below, and if you have a video or a blog post or a Instagram picture of your BookTubeAthon TBR, please post it down below. I would love to see it. And I'll definitely be on Twitter trying to keep updating people about what's going on with my reading, and on Goodreads. And I'm thinking about maybe posting something during the middle of the week to let people know how I'm doing in the readathon. So maybe look forward to that. And that is pretty much all. So I am going to shut this off, wash my hair, and get to reading.